Lastly, in this section, we will conclude this lecture by looking at some of the challenges Chinese companies have encountered in foreign contracting projects and future solutions or improvement areas. International engineering contracting has unique industry characteristics, such as long construction period, difficult contract management, non-transferable projects, differences in technical standards, etc. The main challenges faced by China's foreign contracting projects industry are as follows. First, the market distribution is still monotonous, too concentrated in the areas of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Second, the business model is relatively simple, as it is mainly infrastructural construction. Third, market competition is becoming more severe. There are more contractors in the market, especially engineering contractors from developed countries or regions. Lastly, international market risks are rising. Let's examine them individually. The first challenge is the monotonous market distribution. China's foreign contracted projects are mainly concentrated in Asia and Africa, and the business volume accounts for about 85%. Once the markets in these regions are saturated, China's foreign contracted engineering market will be greatly reduced. Therefore, a diversified market focus will be very beneficial to mitigate the risk. And it will also lay the foundation for further market development in the future. The monotonous market distribution is influenced by two factors. One, there is insufficient business development initiatives by Chinese firms in the high-end market. And two, the current hot markets will soon become saturated. Let's look at these two factors briefly. First, the high-end market business is underdeveloped. The global infrastructure construction market's demand is huge. In addition to the vast Asian and African markets, market demand in Europe and the Americas is also growing. However, China's market share in these markets is less than 2%. In addition to developed countries, Chinese companies also have slower business development in larger markets such as India, Brazil, Russia, and Eastern Europe. The market share in Latin America and the Caribbean is only about 12%. From the perspective of the market distribution of international contractors, Chinese contractors and their market share is too small to compete effectively with many foreign contractors. If we examine this table, it shows countries or regions that are the main markets for China's foreign contracted projects. With the further development of the market, many have become saturated. The newly signed contracts and completed turnover are in a state of negative growth. In 2018, the top 10 countries with newly signed contracts totaled $92.24 billion, accounting for 38.1% of the total in the same period. However, the second, third, and fourth countries had negative growth compared with the same period. In terms of completed turnover, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Algeria are among the top three. But compared with the same period, they're still in a state of negative growth. The second challenge is that facing the business model used by Chinese firms. But first, let's briefly understand what some of the main models are. The EPC model refers to engineering, procurement, construction. Usually under this model, the company is responsible for the quality, safety, cost, and schedule of the contracted projects under the conditions of the lump sum contracts. The PPP model refers to public-private partnership. a project established by the government and the social capital to allocate project risk reasonably and clarify the rights and obligations of both parties. China's business model is relatively simple, and most of them are concentrated on EPC projects. However, the BOT and PPP projects of large international contractors have reached 40 to 50%. In general, the diversification of project types helps diversify the risk of overseas contracted projects. The current main business models are difficult in order to meet the needs of the international market. Market competition is becoming increasingly fierce. First, due to the increasing cost of our own labor, the comparative advantage is gradually fading in that area. Facing the huge low-cost competition in the international market, the market share of China's international contractors is gradually decreasing. Also, due to the problem of low-price competition within Chinese-funded enterprises, it is difficult to achieve harmonious cooperation with each other. The continuous competitive prices cuts of Chinese international contractors have led to a sharp decline in revenue. Another aspect of the increasingly severe market competition is the market competition environment of the recipient country. First, the host country quotes externally, and the quoted price is far lower than the reasonable cost price in the market or the average level of local Chinese-funded enterprises. Sometimes, other bidding companies in the market disrupt the project advancement process of Chinese companies that have won bids or negotiating bids, causing the development to be halted. This and more above are only some of the factors that hinder the development of China's foreign contractors. If Chinese companies want to gain a foothold in the host country, they must carefully review the business environment. Lastly, another challenge faced by China's companies overseas is that of rising risk in the international market. Many engineering contracting projects have a government background or are built with international aid, and their distinctive political affiliation makes them vulnerable to political or economic risk closely related to government actions. Since the Sino-US trade war, the development of China's foreign trade has been struggling, especially due to the shortage of fiscal funds caused by low oil prices, large fluctuations in exchange rates, financial difficulties in some countries, and payment difficulties for projects under implementation. The security situation in some countries has deteriorated. At the same time, traditional market risks have risen, such as contract performance risk and regulatory changes risk. Delays in the start of contracted projects have a huge impact on the contracted engineering business. Therefore, once the host country starts to show symptoms of political turbulence, regime change, or economic situation deteriorates, this are signs projects might be vulnerable to risks. In conclusion, let us analyze some improvement areas for China's overseas contracting companies, or the countermeasures or suggestions for these challenges. For China's overseas contracted projects, the development direction has to first undergo a business transformation and upgrading its model innovation. The host country's infrastructure is becoming increasingly diversified, which requires overseas contracting companies to maintain diversification in their business and innovate their operating models. Secondly, industrial chain integration and cross-border cooperation. Economic globalization and regional economic integration have become two irreversible historical development trends. All countries should establish a global industrial chain system, improve the global allocation of resources, and increase the degree of internationalization. China's industrial structure adjustment and the transfer of advantageous production capacity requires vigorous development of foreign investment, construction of industrial parks abroad, and promotion of investment in the construction of various production facilities, which can bring new development opportunities. Thirdly, integrated development and localized development. A true multinational company should work out an appropriate business model and development strategy based on the political system and social customs of the host country. Choose projects that are related to the long-term development of the local area, have important socio-economic significance, and are economically and technically feasible, and avoid the politicization of projects. This marks the end of our class. I hope you've been able to learn more in this session. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.